Hey all, welcome to today's channel chat. Today's chat is part of a series that we're doing here on hot button issues and MMOs. And with us today is someone that needs no introduction on this channel, I'm sure. Space Tomato, thanks so much for joining us today. How are things?
Hot. Things are hot. Thank you for having me on, though. Glad to be here.
Yeah, absolutely. Um, Last time we chatted over on your neck of the woods, we were kind of bumping into the topic of MMOs in the abstract a little bit as it related to Star Citizen. And so when I was thinking about doing this series, which is kind of what this is, well, at first I was going to just kind of talk into the camera about things like PvP and group play and MMOs, but then I was like, no, that what makes these hot button issues is like all the different passionate perspectives. And so I needed to bring in more folks into the conversation. And I remembered you saying that you were kind of relatively new to MMOs, that Star Citizen was maybe your first foray. Is that right? Give
Yep.
give us a little background on your journey.
My journey is short when it comes to MMOs. Yeah, I I think the only other MMO I've ever played was I jumped into RuneScape for like 20 minutes when I was probably like 13. And around that same time, I think I played Phantasy Star Online on the Xbox when my friend was sleeping over, and we like just messed around and met people. Other than that, I have never. Oh, I actually tried Eve briefly. Funny story. I jumped into Eve around 2010, I want to say 2009, and looked at what it was and how long it had been out. I was like, I'm too late to this. I can't. I'm just not gonna. I won't even try this. It's too much to get into. Little did I know. Here we are, 16 years later, and it's still going. And that was back before I understood what really made an MMO, or a live service game at least, which it wasn't really a name or a thing back then that we used. But other than that, yeah, I basically have always played single player games, big on RPGs, action adventures. 2005 to 2010 was like my golden age. There's just so many amazing game series that started around that time that I think shaped what I like about games. Um, and Star Citizen, I did not come to it because it was an MMO. I came to it because it was a space game with spaceships and it looked cool and you were first person and walking around. So in reality, Squadron 42 actually matches more what I look for in a game than Star Citizen, but I've learned to really love Star Citizen still.
That's awesome. I had a similar experience with EVE Online, and I think it was right around the same time. I think like 2011. I jumped into it, and I'm a career MMO player. But even for me, like when I saw the scope and like everything going on, I'm like, wow, I should have started this like 7 years ago. But yeah, same situation. Here we are, 16 years later.
Yeah,
Um,
man. I wasn't good enough at spreadsheets, really. So I was like, I can't do this.
did you play some Dune Awakening lately? I thought I saw.
Yeah. Yeah, I've been
Yeah,
playing it a little bit. I tried it. I dabbled.
yeah,
Um, cool game, but many of people have been quick to tell me it's not quite an MMO. So
yeah,
I don't know if that really counts.
yeah. On the fence on it. You kind of mentioned already, but like with the EVE Online thing and just kind of like feeling behind. I mean, was there anything that kept you away from MMOs, or is it just kind of just didn't intersect with your interest?
I just like single player games. I liked the curated story, and I actually didn't realize how many MMOs tried to give you that experience until more recently. But I know some like Star Wars, The Old Republic is a little bit more focused on like getting you a story and letting you meet people and go throughout your own adventure. But really, that was like, see, I loved Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic, but then I saw the Old Republic. I was like, this is an MMO. I don't really want to play with other people. And I think that's a misconception a lot of people have.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense, and I think that sets the stage and gives us good context on your background because now we're going to get into the nitty gritty. First question I have, and I'm sure you've seen all kinds of videos and threads, and are MMOs dying? I mean, you've just gotten started, so this is a very interesting question. I think for you,
Yeah.
like as someone who's just really on boarded onto them, I'm sure that, like your perspective is probably different from most. But like when you see that kind of stuff, like what goes through your mind?
Everything's dying all the time, right?
Yeah,
It's the law. It's like as long as there are people leaving it, it's dying. Um, I think MMOs are seem to be very hard games to make, and games are only getting harder to make. So like MMOs exponentially so. So I can imagine that the genre itself is shrinking because there are less and less companies out there able to make them. But I don't think the actual interest in MMOs is necessarily dying. I mean, I would imagine part of why they might be losing popularity is because other games are kind of intruding on the genre too. Like we talked about Dune Awakening. That's not an MMO according to a lot of people, but then at the same time, a lot of people play it because it is kind of like an MMO. And so you can look at other games like the Division series, or Destiny, which people call like MMO lights, kind of. You jump into different hubs and you can meet other people. It's a multiplayer and it's kind of open world, but it doesn't have that massive feel to it that I think people look for in something like um, World of Warcraft or EVE Online or something like that. So I think that maybe it's not so much that MMOs are dying, more so just that the genre, the definition of them is kind of changing.
Yeah, I think that's a good, solid way of looking at it. I've had similar thoughts about, especially around you brought up the complexity of developing these things and how it's just getting harder and harder. And so we're seeing fewer and fewer, I think, as time goes on. Like if you go back to like 2004, 2005, there was, I felt like there was like a new MMO every 6 to 12 months. Now they're coming out a lot more infrequently, and so like when we do get one that like flops, I think people are really flocking. Oh, they're gone. They're not going to, like, New World is a good example, right? It came out, and I don't think you've played it, but it came out, it surged to like 1 million players, and then within 2 months it was like at 5% of that or whatever.
Yeah, I remember the launch. That was rough. I didn't play it. I didn't really follow it, but I, water cooler talk basically. I heard what was going on and it sounded pretty rough.
Yeah, but that seems to be par for the course over the past, I don't know, 5 years. I mean, we had like New World, we had Throne and Liberty. The story just keeps kind of repeating itself. So I could see like how the sentiment's building, but I agree with you. Like, at least from my perspective, the interest is still there. Um, One of the things that people get passionate about, also kind of tangential to that, is PvE and PvP. How do you feel about PvP? Would you like adorn yourself with a title of like I'm a PvP or I'm a PvE, or how do you think about like those two aspects of the game?
That is a fun conversation. I
Yeah,
love that one. That's oh gosh. I am not either. Um I don't really care. The
yeah,
way I like this is a huge topic that comes up with Star Citizen. People will say areas or events or things need to be either PvP or PvE. I know it's probably a little bit idealistic and not as realistic, but I think it should be more so, is the area dangerous or not? Like I want to if I'm going to go into a place that's considered dangerous like Pyro, I don't expect to run into players all the time. I still expect to get attacked by difficult NPCs, but I want them to set up the stage to where I'm still scared. Doesn't matter if there's going to be a player there or not. I'm still worried that an NPC pirate might be tracking me or might pull me over, interdict me, or whatever. Um, and then when I go to a place that's like, I don't want to say Stanton because that's not that safe. It's like Terra, maybe. Um, then I would expect to feel more safe.
yeah.
There's a lot of systems that they have to put into place for that to work. And players will always try to get around those systems to make sure that those places that are safe aren't safe. So I understand that it's like a gray area. You can't just draw the line on where danger starts and stops. But I've never really cared, and this might be because I'm such a new MMO player. I haven't been able to have as many experiences. I've never really cared if I'm running into an NPC or a player. I know players will be more creative and dangerous, but it's still the challenge that I'm looking for.
Yeah, that's cool. I know there's been a lot of talk about like using more sophisticated NPC AI to kind of recreate some of that danger. I think that would be really cool. I have yet to see a game that really pulls that off effectively. It'd be cool if Star Citizen was among them.
What do you think? Well, yeah. So, what do you think of? I guess what's your preference?
I'm kind of like you. We're gonna get into this a little more later, but like I feel like PvP is somewhat fundamental to the longevity of a game in some ways, like especially sandbox games. Like it needs to exist, and I think that yeah, like me, I'm like you. Like I'm okay with it. Like some kinds of it. There's certain kinds that aggravate me, and I'm sure that's I think a lot of times what aggravates other players, and that is like griefing, right? Like
Just being annoying.
yeah, when you run into the kind of player that just wants to just stop you from enjoying the game for no real reason.
Yeah.
It's not like they're trying to pirate you. It's not like they're trying to do. They're just, they'll pad ram you or they'll blow you up on an 890 jump when you're trying to enjoy a nice voyage through the stars. I know you were on that ship.
Yeah, they're just there to. Other people's pain is their fun. They're not stealing or collecting anything. They're just there to kill, murder hobo.
Yeah, exactly. So just like anybody else, like I get aggravated by that kind of PvP, but when it's genuine, like I love it. I think that's some of the best parts of the game. But I wouldn't call myself a PvPer. Like I don't go out seeking it. I'm usually in the game just trying to get something done, and if it happens, and hopefully it's enjoyable. Have you had any like just kind of off the cuff, like memorable PvP encounters?
I've had a few. I can't actually remember. I know I had one recently, and I can't remember the exact story, but like I was not expecting the person to combat me, and I kind of had a feeling like we were working together, and then they killed me. I was like, oh, okay, look at you. But I've had many more good experiences. Oftentimes I go to the Hathor facilities in Star Citizen. Um, just I just I just like going to locations and seeing what happens. And I think that's one of the best places in the game right now because you got NPCs, you got loot. Sometimes players are coming in. There's this dynamic event that might be running that you can possibly jump into. Just it's a very sandboxy kind of location to me. And so I'll go there and just kind of see what happens. And a lot of the time I run into players who are friendly, who are also looting. Sometimes I talk to them on VoIP. Sometimes we work through the rooms together. And yeah, I have had a lot of good times doing PvP and Star Citizen like that. I don't guess it's not called PvP if we're not attacking each other, but it is P and P, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah. That's awesome. I had a situation that I think it was like maybe 2 or 3 weeks ago where we were at Hathor. We kind of flew in and we just did our standard like bomb the area just to make sure it's all cleared out. Not even realizing who was down there.
Oh my gosh, that's you?
Yeah, we're just trying to secure our forces. I mean, we come in with a lot of people, and so, but I guess we caught somebody by accident down there, and then so we landed, and we're down there like trying to get all the pieces in order to get the beam, and we get a message for like in global chat, I think it was from somebody in orbit saying, "Hey, you have this much time to like pay us 2 million in damages or else we're going to knock you out of the sky." And it was just the beginning of a really cool PvP encounter for us, and we ended up saying no way, we're not paying. And so we ended up getting into this big battle over Hathor. It was like our Idris versus one of theirs and the missile boat, and it went on for like an hour back and forth, and it was just a lot of fun. It was a really great encounter.
How'd it end?
We fended them off. I don't know that. I think they retreated before their ship. So they were lucky for us. Our Idris was fully crewed, and I think they were doing like 1 and 2 person ships. So we had a little bit of an advantage there. We fended them off, but nobody lost their ships.
You mean the greatest one person ship in the game, the Idris?
Is it really effective? I haven't even tried to steer that ship one person.
I mean, it's just you run into a lot of people who are just flying them around on their own.
Yeah. Do you think it makes sense for PvP and PvE to coexist like this? I know there's a lot of calls on Spectrum and Reddit and other places I go for like, I think like 6-9 months ago there was a big uproar about, hey, we want PvE servers. I mean, do you think like the way things are going is the right way? Do you think there's anything to like separating these game styles?
Man, I no. I think it should be separated geographically, or at least attempted.
Yeah.
Obviously, it's not a commonly successful method. Um, there are doubts. I have my own doubts as to whether it'll work. But the way I see it, they should try what they want to try. They should try what they've set out to do and how they're designing the game and try to make it work. And if it doesn't work, then oh no. Star Citizen maybe fails because of it. Maybe it's not as good because of it. Maybe they have to do a lot of different changes because of it. But like as an art, I believe that you should do what you set out to do and either be proved right or proved wrong. It's on them to make sure it does work with the way that they've set out to do it. But I just don't see how PvE servers could work. We have a game that is so dependent and built around collaboration. The way I see it, this current event that we're running should be assigning contracts to SRVs to tow ships out of these outposts when they get left behind. Once those SRVs tow the ships to a certain place, a contract should then be created for anybody to go and salvage that, just like we get already. It should just understand that the ship is there ready to be salvaged. This is a natural gameplay way of taking care of this problem. But if we had PvE servers, that could never happen because you couldn't tractor beam the ship away. You can't salvage the other person's ship. It would be like everywhere is an armistice zone. How would you be able to say tractor a part off of your friend's ship? That would be considered PvP, right? So they would have to find some way to allow for random players to help other random players without allowing other random players to hurt random players, but they both using the same tools. And I just don't get how that could possibly function. Maybe it has in other MMOs, but with the way that it's being designed, it just seems like you'd be creating more problems than you solved. I feel like instead what they should be trying to do is expanding Arena Commander, continuing to import these locations from Star Citizen into Arena Commander, put NPCs in Arena Commander, and then allow for people to do combat, mining, salvage, farming, base building, whatever it is, in their own closed Arena Commander server. There's your private servers. There's your PvE. But I think the PU should be an open space that is geographically and gameplay systemically moderated, I guess you could say. Again, probably idealistic. Too idealistic, but
I think you're getting at the heart of the issue, though. I think you mentioned about other games maybe being successful, but I think really what it comes down to, in my mind at least, is like sandbox versus theme park, right? Like in a game like World of Warcraft or Final Fantasy, I mean, we would lovingly call those theme park MMOs because like the recipe is different. Like players are really working towards common goals only, which is, defeat the bad guy at the end of the raid. Everybody really has the same objective, so they're kind of working together. And the way those games keep players engaged in the game is through like a content drip. Like, okay, here's the next raid, and then here's the next raid. And I think what games like Star Citizen are going for is more of an organic. Here's the universe. Here's the sandbox. Go do things in it. And I think if you don't have conflict, it really kind of neuters the entire point. My perspective.
Yeah, and I think the theme park thing is a good move. Like, it's nice to have these hot spots and instance locations where you can go and get guaranteed gameplay within the PU. But that general area in the PU, I think, applying a bunch of rules to it it just complicates things more.
Are you talking about like the co-op and conflict zones? That's one of the things I want to bring up. Yeah. Think that's a good move?
I do.
Yeah.
I think instancing locations is good. those underground facilities make a ton of sense to instance if they need to do them. And having a place like contested zones or cooperative zones that maybe aren't instanced but act as hotspots, at least advertise to people, if you don't want this kind of gameplay, don't come here. If you do, come here. They could start doing that for entire star systems. I mean, Pyro is kind of like that, right? If you don't want a place where you can openly get hijacked, don't go to Pyro. Stanton obviously still has that problem with it, but that's just because the game is so unfinished.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, I mean, back to the sandbox theme park thing. This has been a kind of a hot button issue in Dune Awakening too. Even you could argue whether this is an MMO or not, but like a lot of people have been calling. I don't know how familiar you are with the end game in Dune, but the developers put
Haven't even touched it.
Yeah. So the developers are trying to incentivize PvP in that game by putting the end game resources in PvP areas, similar to like, and you said you played Eve for a little bit. I don't know if you remember, but like in Eve, like the richest resources were always in nullsec, which was like lawless. You go in there at your own risk. Players are going to blow you up, whatever. Dune kind of took the same route. And so like there's tiers, right, in Dune of like, okay, you can build tier 1 or armor, and you can build tier 2 armor and vehicles, you can build tier 3, and it goes the whole way up to tier 6. And tier 6 requires resources that are only available in the PvP zone at the very end of the game. And so there's a huge number of comments on Reddit and otherwise that are saying like, hey, you sold us a PvE game. We should be able to reach tier 6 without encountering PvP. I mean, my thinking is like, and it kind of goes back to your point that you were saying about why it's important in a game like Star Citizen, but like, okay, what if you do make that stuff available through PvE loops and you could just kind of go in there, but then what? Like, okay, well, now you're at tier 6. Like, I think the whole idea in these games is like, if you want to stay at the top end, you have to remain in the game engaging with this loop. But like, if you make it accessible via PvP, then people just kind of march through, they get it, and now they're at the end, and now what? I mean, that's how I see it. I mean,
well, you mean like, so if PvE people can get the top stuff in the game,
yeah,
then there's not really anything to do with it?
Yeah. Well, then
I needed to make more in-game challenges for that kind of stuff, right? I
Yeah.
mean, to bring it back to Star Citizen,
Yeah.
of course. If there was like, or getting theoretical here, but let's say there is some special material that gives your ship armor that allows for corrosion resistance, and there are certain planets in the game that you just can't go to unless you have corrosion resistance.
Yeah.
I could still see those things being achievable through non-PvP means.
Yeah.
Because there's still like a challenge that you need to go and get that in order to complete. But I do also understand that like players create unlimited possibilities. So like you always need to be getting stuff to counteract other players.
Yeah.
I think Dune Awakening's problem, which I think I've seen a lot of people already sort of comment on, is that like, yeah, the game for a long time is very much not focused on pushing that sort of stuff, or not even making you very aware that that stuff is necessary. And at the very end, it suddenly happens, and like you said, people feel a little bit fooled by it.
Yeah.
And that is why I like that Star Citizen has it ingrained at all levels of the design. I think if you can give the players who want to be involved in that a chance to be involved with that early on, and you give the players who maybe don't want to be involved with that a couple shots off the bow early on, just like making them aware that it exists, there are less surprises and switch ups as you go through the progression of the game.
Yeah. I couldn't agree more. I think whenever I think Star Citizen and this, like, my mind keeps coming back to like player bases, player space stations, what we saw in the last CitizenCon, which I'm super pumped about. But like
player space stations, oh lord.
What? It sounds like you have a thought.
I just can't believe that they whipped that out at that. It was like 30 minutes of the Star Citizen 1.0 panel, right?
Yeah.
That was that panel, right?
Yeah.
I'm just like, guys, it felt like the Sandworm in 2016, which at that time didn't really seem like it would be that far off. But I'm looking at this and I'm like, freaking space stations, dude. Can I build a cot first? I mean, we don't have any form of crafting, and they went in on the design. I mean, they were talking about modular space stations, building a bangle. You're gonna have this network where you can bring these people in and space defense systems, and then they were also talking about the shield systems and pyro. And I'm like, save some for the next 4 citizen cons, please.
That's funny.
It was exciting, of course, but it was just very Star Citizen presentation. Like the whole Citizen Con, I felt like was fairly solid in setting expectations. And then like the last 30 minutes of the whole thing, they're just like, player space station. Wow. Okay. All right, cool.
Well, that's fair.
It was also funny because they had the art director on talking about it.
Yeah.
I love Ian. He's great. I love his presentation style. He's always presented some of the coolest stuff in my opinion, but he presents concepts.
Yeah.
And generally it sets this expectation for people that like he is a dev who's talking about the gameplay stuff, but no, he's the art guy and he's talking about how this will function in terms of what you're seeing. And so you always hear him come on and he'll be like, it could be like this and it might work like this. And then people get in the comments and they're like, could, might, maybe, all this. And it's like, well, yeah, he's the art guy. But I think they kind of shoot themselves in the foot when they present like that. So there's my rant.
That's totally fair. I opened up a can of worms there. I'm hoping that we see like a hab in the next 12 months. If you remember back to when they were showing like those like single room habs that you kind of decorate, put a suit of armor in, put them on a planet. I'm hoping like we at least get that MVP in the next year. But regardless, even if you ignore space stations and focus on like crafting and ground bases, which I think are probably closer than building things in the sky, the space stations made sense to me just because it's like that's the direction of Evil Online, and like so much else in Star Citizen. But
it makes sense,
yeah. But like, if I imagine that without the PvP element, that's where my mind went when I started playing Dune. Like, imagine if like everybody just raced to build space stations or ground bases, but there was no pushback. Like, what would you do after you build it? You just kind of like sit there and admire it, I guess.
Yeah. Put your feet up. Bring your minerals back home.
Yeah.
Cook some dinner.
Yeah. For me, I very much hope to see conflict. I really like the way they presented it, in that like if there was PvP associated with a station or a ground base or whatever, like it sounded to me like you didn't have to worry about the destruction of the thing that you built. It was really just resource competition, like taken to the next level. Which I thought was pretty cool.
I do. Yeah, I think that's the resource scarcity and whether you can control it having a space station in orbit will be interesting. If like resources on the ground below you, you'll probably still want to have a base down there, and the space station is kind of support. I do like that. And I hope that the danger to these space stations also has NPC elements to it. I think it's Factorio that does a good job of making you work on your base, building your base all the time, more efficient, making your production more efficient, but then also having this kind of in the back of your mind, you're like, okay, there's going to be an attack at some point. And these, I think they're bugs, like just giant bugs, monsters basically, will attack your base periodically and make you have to keep up with your defenses and make sure you're staying on top of things. And I think that would do a lot for making having bases in more dangerous areas more interesting.
It's kind of along the lines of incentivizing like risk taking. If you do have like areas that are Wild West, and like just coming up with reasons for players to be there, I think is what you're getting at. Yeah, I agree. I always love the way Eve approached that with null sec and low sec and
right. Eve is like the closest parallel, it seems like, to what Star Citizen is trying to do, right?
Yeah. Next, this is kind of related. Group play versus solo play. Where do you fall on a spectrum? I mean, do you find yourself playing by yourself most of the time with a couple buddies?
I'm definitely more of a solo player.
Yeah.
I like a small group. I like getting like 3 or 4 people together and going and running some contracts. Um, and that probably just comes from the fact like that's the games I grew up with. Even when I wasn't doing solo player games, I was doing like arena shooters and cooperative experiences. So you're only having like 2 to 4 people next to you. But I mean, I have an org. I run GII, and we do some pretty large scale stuff too. And I do like that. I think I will like it a lot more when there's more stuff in the game that's fitting for that. It's funny because this year has been just filled with complaints that CIG is making the game for orgs, but it really just does not feel like the game is made for large groups. You could do most of the things in this game with 1 to 3 players, and I think that's just a matter of like they haven't. It's the same with everything else, right? They haven't had the time to get to building deeper systems and focusing on stuff that's not directly benefiting Squadron 42.
Yeah.
I'm definitely more on the side of smaller, focused gameplay than the large scale warfare kind of stuff. Now I know you have a pretty big org as well.
Yeah.
Do you ever find yourself playing solo, or are you always jumping in with groups?
Yeah, I'm a little biased on this subject because I'm always jumping in with groups. I don't run solo very often. Every once in a while, like when these new missions come out, I'll or new events, like I'll log on just to kind of get myself past like the initial quest or whatever, so I can start participating in the group turn-ins. But yeah, I'm very much a group guy. But you know, our like I said, I've only played MMOs. I never really had a single player background, unless you go way back to like the Sega Nintendo days. But ever since MMOs became a thing, that's just what I've done. So I've gotten very used to like the group oriented play.
Yeah. I think that's the interesting thing about Star Citizen is how many people have come from different backgrounds and so want to see different types of gameplay.
Yeah.
Would you say that if you came home and you wanted to jump into Star Citizen, but you looked online and none of your friends were on, would you not play?
No, I wouldn't say that. I would what I tend to do in those situations is like I'll just get on and I'll organize. Like I don't know, like
Okay.
I'll go to my hangar, I'll organize my boxes, my ships, like I'll bring up another ship in the hangar and I'll load the gun racks. Like I'll do that kind of stuff while I'm waiting for other people. Like I usually won't fly around by myself.
Some
If I do,
logistics.
if I do, it's mining.
Okay.
Yeah.
I get you.
I do love mining. I'll turn on some music. I'll get out there in the prospector and I'll just blast rocks for a while.
Mining's chill. I wish it was a little bit more mm, exploration focused, I guess.
Me too. I could go on and on about mining. Exploration, I think, would be really cool to bring into it. I wish it wasn't like scan a rock, mine a rock, scan a rock, mine a rock. Someday I'm hoping that they bring something in that's like you survey the ground and you find like the ground is rich in resources and you spend a while at a location, you know, like extracting everything. That's kind of what I'm hoping for. But
That old concept picture of the prospector bore mining into the surface of a planet.
I never even saw that, but that sounds right up my alley.
Yeah, that one really gets me. Like, where is that? Let us bore.
Yeah. Yeah, there's just so much time spent just scanning and traversing. You don't really spend a whole lot of time blasting rocks, but
Right.
which, you know, coming from Eve, that's a big difference. Because in Eve, like it was like that. You would find an area of an asteroid belt rich in resources, and you would hunker down there for a while. But maybe someday.
Clicking.
Yeah.
I remember that from Eve. I'd click an asteroid and just watch my ship fly around it, shooting a laser at it.
Orbit the rock at 3 km. Fire all my laser beams. Yeah. It's very much an AFK game at times, but so you're more single player oriented. I'm more group oriented. There's this perpetual hum on like Spectrum and other places of like it's this tug of war, right? Like I want everything single player accessible. We want a bunch of group content that's exclusive. I mean, do you think that it makes sense for some types of content to be oriented towards small groups or solo players and other types to be oriented towards group play? Or do you think that the entire game should be accessible to everybody? Like, where do you fall?
Oh God, no. Yeah, I think yeah, we should definitely be separated by things. I mean, I want to, as a starting player, I want to leave the starting area and immediately just get the absolute knocked out of me. You know, like I want to know that I cannot go to this place unless I've got backup, unless I've got a co-pilot, unless I've got a wingman. I want to go to this place and know that if I want to mine those resources, I need somebody watching my back. I want to go to this place and know that there's going to be a kraken controlled by pirates here, and I can't just fly in with my buccaneer and take it out because I'm a good pilot. Like I have to plan ahead. And I know a lot of people don't like the idea of getting locked out of gameplay based on how much time they have or how many friends they have. But I think that CIG does owe it to make sure that those players who don't have those resources still get a good time doing what they want to do. But I think that there should be gameplay that is exclusive to certain setups. I mean, you can't have a varied game without that. We can't tell people that, oh well, if you don't have I don't know, if you don't have VTOL thrusters, then you can't be hovering in atmosphere for a certain amount of time. I think, or rather, we should be telling people that. I'm sorry. There should be things that make you consider the choices you're making, the preparation you're doing, and the resources you have. But there is a big but. People still need to be able to have fun in small groups. That actually, I think, is equally as important. You know, there are things that could be fun in small groups, like the Hathor facility. I think that's like a 4-person kind of thing. I don't think you need 20 people to do that. But then if somebody comes in with 20 people, suddenly they dominate and hold the place down. And I think that that's also something CIG could do, is make sure that you can't come into certain locations and just spam numbers and get ahead and kill everybody else and have the win for yourself. There needs to be some kind of limitation on how many players can flood into the zone. And I always thought that the bed logging that they had, the idea that you need a bed in order to log out and log on, and certain ships have beds, certain ships have certain amounts of beds, was a good idea, because then it's like, if you don't have a limitation on how people can log on and off, then you could just have people log off on the Pisces, fly that Pisces on board somebody's Idris, and then have all those people log back on, and there was no risk to that. They didn't put themselves at risk of being blown up on the way in. They just were able to do it because there were no limitations. So it's a tall order. We're asking a lot of them, but I think that there needs to be uh, some gray areas, but some fairly clear lines as to how many people you should be trying to bring into some sort of contract.
Yeah, I think that's fair. That is a tough order. Like in an open world sandbox, like how do you even
Yeah,
begin to like?
it's hard. That's
Yeah,
hard because like when you're doing these bounties, for instance, you could work your way up to a level, I don't know, whatever rep bounty, and you're starting to get some more difficult ships. Maybe you're fighting like a hammerhead and a constellation and a couple bucks. In that case, would the contract tell you, hey, you need to bring enough to fight this sort of group? Or does the contract just tell you it's going to be hard, figure it out? Because then you might fly in there with a Scorpius thinking, yeah, I'm good, I got guns, I'm cool, and you get absolutely wrecked. But it's also kind of lame for the contract to literally say, you're fighting this and this and this, make sure to bring this and this and this. And that's tough to figure out how to set people's expectations without giving up the catch, I guess.
what about the solo player that bought a Kraken?
Ah, good luck. I'm sorry to them. That's unfortunate. But like, don't do it. If you buy big ships, have big groups of friends. Or be ready to not run that ship efficiently. Like, it's not like you can't fly a Kraken around solo, but you're gonna fly it around, go park it in space. Maybe you use it as your home base and you fly off and on it, and you could stay hidden and you'll be good. But eventually, you'll have to probably replace the components. Eventually, you will be putting cargo on and off of there. and all that stuff's going to be a lot slower if you're by yourself. I don't think it should be impossible, but um, it's again going back to that sort of just preparation kind of thing.
Yeah.
Solo buying a Kraken, man.
It's gotta happen. What do you think about AI blades and NPC crew?
I feel bad for the people who are looking forward to NPC crew because that's a ways away. I mean, and they've already told us that too.
Yeah.
AI blades could be very interesting. I think AI blades offer the opportunity to run your ship more efficiently with less people, but it probably still isn't as efficient as running it with more people.
Yeah, this has been a hot topic in my group, which is more group oriented, and so I think the concern is, and I'm glad I'm not in the position of having to try to balance this, but I think the concern is that like if you have a ship like I don't know, an Idris or a Polaris or whatever, which today benefits from a larger crew, if you can chock that thing full of AI blades so that all the turrets, and I don't even know if it really applies to these ships, but hopefully my point stands. If you can chock these things full of AI blades and remove the need for human crew, even if you take like a hit on how effective the ship is in combat, like say the ship is 30% less effective because they're using AI blades instead of people. Like I think the fear is that the meta will still shift towards just single player ships, because if you have 10 people and your choice is I can bring 2 fully crewed Idrises or I can bring 10 Idrises with AI blades, who wins?
That's a lot of ships.
It is a lot of ships.
Yeah. I don't know. I'm also of the mindset that I don't want to have to be the one to balance that.
Yeah, I'm with you.
It's hard because players will expect that to be viable. Players will join Star Citizen and expect that they can fly any ship they want by themselves. And if you tell them that they have AI blades that can help, they will expect that those AI blades work well. And if CIG wanted to balance it and say, well, AI blades maybe burn out quickly, maybe they are very inaccurate, maybe they do this or do that, you're going to get a lot of complaints from those players saying, this system's dumb. It doesn't even work. I'm constantly having to fix stuff and worry about stuff. Why can't I just fly and shoot and mine and drone and all that stuff? And then you have more answers, more questions to answer.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that AI blades should allow you to take over some more controls of your ship. I'm thinking that probably they will be limited by the power you have available to your ship. And that would be a pretty clear-cut way to tell people, hey, you just can't do that. But I think they're going to run into a lot of complaints and a lot of problems over the years trying to make AI blades work with the game.
We'll continue to see the group versus solo tug of war.
Oh my gosh, yeah. Or it's ongoing debate forever and ever. Honestly, as long as they don't put the blades in the store, take your time with them, you know?
Yeah. One of the best ideas I've heard, I forget who said it, but I don't know if it was on YouTube or somebody I was talking to, but somebody said we should just have like EMP weapons that can knock them out. So that way they're effective in PvE, but if you get into a large PvP encounter, like you're at risk if you're running all AI blades.
Yeah, that'd be a good one.
Yeah.
Have them be affected by EMPs. I like that.
Yeah.
It's also hacking. If somebody can hack your ship, then AI blades are a lot more open to disruption than people.
I like that. When we get hacking.
Yeah, I was going to say, we'll see what they do with hacking.
That would be very cool to be able to like hack in combat. I have no idea what hacking is even supposed to look like, but I haven't followed that one.
Yeah, I mean, I have, but I still don't know. Like, it could be so many different things at this point.
You mentioned just don't make them available in the store. Um, one of the other hot button issues in MMOs today is monetization. I mean, this comes up back to like the MMOs are dying thing. Like this comes up all the time in that conversation. I mean,
Yeah.
pay to win, pay to skip, pay for cosmetics. I mean, you name it. You think it's a problem?
Yeah. I mean, I think there is a lot of potential for it to be a problem.
Yeah.
CIG is already really skirting the line, and I would say even cross the line with the ships, but the ships were a necessity for funding the game. I think they bit off more than they should have, which has led to them needing more ships than they need for this game to make sense. But the ships were always like the shell. They were the frame of the house. It was really the furniture, the utilities, what you put in the house that was really the progression and the stuff that you were working so hard for in the game, right? You were just talking about you have a space station. That space station is supporting a base. That base is in the place because that base is mining or refining a certain material that your org needs in order to make a certain component. And that component drove the entire operation. Once you take those components out, I mean, like you could do the same with ships, sure, but again, you need to put something in the ship to really get that benefit to step up above the other players. But once you take those things that might drive all of that work and that progress, that starts to eat into how people see the game's progression. I mean, how much would it suck if you were getting together a whole org event with your folks and you're like, we're going to go mine a certain type of thing. We're going to turn it into this gun. And then somebody pops in and they're like, you don't need to do that. I've already bought all the minerals on the store. They're right here in my hangar. Let's just transport them. And like, obviously, you as the leader, you'd be like, no, that's okay. We're going to go ahead and do this. We're looking for the gameplay. But maybe that starts peeling some players off of your group, your event. And they're like, hey, I'll catch up with you later. I'm just going to use some of his minerals and then I'll come back and we'll do the crafting together. And it's like, it starts to kind of eat away at the group that you're forming.
Yeah. I saw this firsthand. We were talking about EVO Online, and I don't know, maybe 6 months ago, we was during one of the lulls in Star Citizen. We jumped back into it for a little bit, and yeah, the economy there has completely changed. I don't know if you've looked at it recently, but like everything is available for a swipe now. Basically, it's all like
Wow.
if you want to like I don't know if you remember, but in the old days, like you have to use create a character, and then like you would start your skill training, and that all occurred like in real time, and it would take you months, years to be able to effectively fly some of the bigger ships in the game. Now, like you could just buy a skill boost, and then boom, you're flying the ship that you want to fly, and then you want to you want to buy that big mining barge. Well, you just buy a Plex, and then boom, you buy the mining barge off the store. And so like it's kind of what you're saying. Like everything in the game is now just kind of a swipe away, and like it's really changed like the player mindset. At least for me and my group, like we would go in and like, well, we could spend 2 hours mining to build this thing, or a day mining or whatever it is, or we could just have it now. And that definitely changes.
Yeah. And we
What do you
lose that
think
with the
about?
ships. But there are a lot of other things that we don't have to lose that with. And I fully understand. Like, they need to fund the game. I've heard this. I freaking say this argument. People will go onto my videos and tell me that, and I'm like, I've been covering this for a long time. I feel the same way. I want them to make the game, but there's got to be a line somewhere.
Yeah, I completely agree. Like they need to fund the game. It's a necessary whatever. I'm curious, like if it'll ever change. Do you think it ever will? Do you think once 1.0 is out there and whatever that the monetization strategy might shift, or do you think we'll be selling ships forever?
I think they want to shift. They're trying to shift it, right? That was what this putting the blades in the store was. Trying to feel out how much they could start shifting towards that. I do think that they should start to try very hard to depend more on cosmetics. I think that they will probably add more perks to the optional subs that you can do and use that in some ways of getting getting more monetization. That right now is mostly for like the community support and like the events they threw and all that stuff and the shows they do. But I could definitely see that going towards the game's development and then putting some extra perks into that. And I do think that ship sales will continue in some regard. I'm hoping that they can change it up to be a little bit more responsible, feasible, and not so scary to the casual person. But I think that their monetization will change, but it'll also be more of the same.
I was hoping for
I know they said they wouldn't sell ships after it came out. I mean, that's what people say they said, but it's hard to stare
Yeah,
it's hard to stare 800 million in the face and be like, we're not doing this anymore.
I know. Hear it. I don't know if I could. Um, but I'm hoping it becomes something like Blueprints, at least, so that like it has to enter the crafting cycle, and
yeah, that'd be good.
we'll see. You already touched on the optional subscriptions. That was a question. Like the Star Citizen community seems to be anti-subscription. I guess they said that at one point, like there was never going to be subscriptions. Is that right?
Yeah. Like you don't have to pay for extra content. You get everything if you just buy the game. And I agree. Like there shouldn't be a subscription required. It also is kind of a subscription sort of tells people that the game itself will be cheaper to buy. I don't think that'll ever be the case. I think they'll charge full price for this game.
Yeah.
And charging full price and requiring a subscription might be a little tough pill to swallow for folks.
Yeah. Although WoW does it every year.
Oh, really?
I mean, they charge you for every expansion that comes out, and it's pretty much a full box price, like usually 40 to $60, and then you pay your 15 a month, and
yeah, wow,
people keep doing it.
Holy crap!
Yeah.
Wait, so you're paying a subscription and you're paying for every expansion?
Yeah.
Golly.
Yep. For the past 20 years. That's how it's worked. I think Final Fantasy works the same way. I don't know. I haven't played Final Fantasy as much.
Jeez. Yeah, no, I think if CIG ever tried to pull something like that, oh yeah, pay for the next star system. Oh, that would not go well. Don't do it. Don't do it.
You just got to pay for the passport stamp so you can actually fly into it.
The jump gate won't open for you, peasant. Yeah. Pay your money, pay your dues, pay your taxes,
your toll. Yeah. Awesome. Is there any hot button? Is there any hot button issues we missed? I can't.
I think the biggest hot button issue right now is development versus maintenance. I want to say like the idea of developing the game versus the idea of just kind of making sure the game is there for people.
Mm-hmm.
And CIG is stuck between a rock and a hard place because they've been trying to maintain and develop for the last 6 years. I mean, it's been going on a long time, but I would say things didn't really start getting serious till after 3.0. And since then, they've just been trying to develop features and maintain the game and not doing a great job at maintaining the game and kind of struggling with the features as well. And now they've stripped back on the features and they're focusing mainly on just maintaining and keeping people playing. But that is still also a struggle for them. And I think the hot button part of this is just that Star Citizen is not their priority. And it's a hard pill to swallow. And honestly, I think some people feel like that in itself is the whole the scam, that you're buying all these ships and putting all this money in, and a lot of it is going towards a game that a lot of these people don't know is actually being produced. And I think that, well, I'm a little guilty of probably egging this on. I'm working on a video that actually calls CIG out for this. But I think this should be something that's on people's minds because everybody is like, I mean, some people think that this is turning into a looter shooter. Some people think that Star Citizen has just made a turn towards combat and everything in this game is going to be combat focused from now on. And it's not. That's just what they've made for Squadron. That's what has worked. We could see the cargo refactor coming in. We can see engineering on the horizon. We know base building and crafting are going to be a thing. There are refinery ships. There are farming professions. There are medical ships. There's all this stuff that they're going to build. But right now, when you look at this, just a slice of what's going on at the moment, people are just not sure. Like they just don't know what the game is going to be. And I think that's because CIG is no longer developing in front of us. They're just maintaining, and what they're maintaining isn't the full game. So I think that's, I don't know. I don't know what exactly the hot button is there, but I do think that that's a topic that will not go away for a while. And it's kind of bubbling under the surface.
Yeah, I can see that. That's tough. Yeah.
What do you think they should be doing right now?
It seems to me like they need a product out there, like to quell some of the belief that they can't ship a product.
Yeah.
And to bolster their revenue stream so that they're not completely reliant upon the goodwill of players as they have been for the past 12 years. And so like it makes sense to me that Squadron is a priority. I think that would go a long way to giving confidence if they have a game out there and it's doing well in the market, it's well received. And I've always liked the strategy of building two games on the same foundation. So like even though like I may be donating for a Kraken and I see this thing like way off in the distance and I'm not really getting what I do, or I bought into the dream of science or exploration or whatever it is, and I'm not seeing that thing get closer. I mean, at least the fact is that in order to ship Squadron, like a lot of the things that we need for Star Citizen have to be built, and so like, I don't know, I'm a programmer, so it makes sense to me. Like whenever you're, anytime that you can build multiple products on one foundation, that's called leverage. And so they are creating a lot of leverage for themselves. And so like it makes sense from a business standpoint, but I understand that it doesn't really make sense from a consumer standpoint, especially whenever you probably have a lot of divide between like the people who are interested in Squadron versus people who are interested in Star Citizen. And at least to me, it seems like there's a lot more interest in Star Citizen than there is Squadron. I don't know if that's right or not.
I think that's true right now.
Yeah.
I think by the time Squadron comes out, it'll be more popular.
Yeah.
Just,
Yeah.
maybe not in terms of like people playing it, but in terms of people knowing the name.
Yeah.
Star Citizen's had a long time to permeate throughout the community. I just think Squadron 42 is the more marketable product, and that's what they're banking on. Kind of the draw to get people into Star Citizen.
Yeah. I completely agree. It's the gateway. And I think to me, I mean, that's a big reason why we're seeing this push for stability and features and content.
Right.
Well, stability and content, and less so on the features and new thing, because they want. I mean, if I were in their shoes, I would want Star Citizen to be ready for a surge of players from Squadron, and it's not.
That would suck. That would suck if Squadron came out right now and then all these new players from Squadron came in and saw the state of the game at this moment.
Yeah, you don't want that.
But that also makes you wonder, like, did they even plan that out? You know, how was the timeline meant to go? Squadron 42 was supposed to come out in 2016. What if it did and Star Citizen was in the state it was in 2016?
Yeah.
Yeah, I asked that question a lot. Pyro was supposed to come out in 2020. How would it have been without the features? I mean, we can already see that certain features can't work in Pyro right now. 5 years ago, what would that system have looked like? I oftentimes wonder if they're more lucky that this all took forever, or if they would have been better off just like ratcheting down like your average publisher to meet the goals that they wanted to. I prefer the former, just to be clear. But I do, it's a fun what if.
I was just talking about this earlier today about how somebody came into one of my comments, they were making the comment like, this it's taken blah 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 like 12 years and this and that, and I get it, but like we've had so much of like the deadline driven development and shipping on deadlines, and like there's so many MMOs and other types of games that have come out in recent years through that formula that just have not met expectations. So like I'm personally willing to like let the pendulum swing the other way for a little while and let this company run with it and see what we get. And I do think the timing may work out better, because I think if they can capture a significant portion of that squadron market for Star Citizen, it's going to work out a lot better for them than a bunch of dismay. Like, oh man, I love Squadron. I'm going to go check out Star Citizen. Oh my god, what a piece of crap this is. I'm never, because like it's like once you lose a player, like it's been proven, I think, like time and time again, it's way harder to get a player to return than to come the first time.
Yeah, I believe it. Yeah. I believe it. They've got a lot of players they got to convince to return. It's a lot of people on their break from Star Citizen, and I think Squadron could be that thing that brings them back.
Yeah, hope so. Awesome. Well, that was an amazing other hot button issue I didn't even have on my radar, but yeah, kudos.
Yeah, get a lot of comments.
Really cool.
Yeah. Base Tomato, thanks so much. I mean, this has been a great chat on all the flaming, smoldering debates out there. Thanks so much for coming on and chatting and kind of exploring these issues with us. I think your perspective is awesome and amazing, especially as somebody kind of like new to the MMO genre.
Yeah, man. My bread and butter, I was kind of mentioning at the beginning of this show, was like Mass Effect 2. I was just going over this on my Xbox the other day. Mass Effect 2 has my most achievements unlocked out of any game. Halo was always my favorite, but Mass Effect 2 was the one that I went hardcore completionist on. And it was around that same time. It was Mass Effect, it was Half-Life, BioShock, Assassin's Creed, Deus Ex, Metal Gear Solid, like a lot of those sort of action-adventure RPG lights with a little bit of immersive elements were coming around that same time. And I think that really stuck with me. And that's the kind of stuff that I look for in these games now. I see games like Exodus or Expanse Osiris Reborn, and I'm like, those are the games that that will capture me. I'll always be with Star Citizen, but I think there are a lot of folks in this community who come from that same kind of background and those same kinds of games. That single player or small group experience is important, but I fully understand that in an MMO, I want to be a single player focused player amongst a community of other people. I want to bounce off other people. I want to coordinate with other people. I don't necessarily want to have to play in their groups, but I want to make sure that we're still involved,
Yeah, that's a super fascinating perspective for me. Cool. Why don't you tell people where they can find you? They probably know, but
got a few YouTube channels. If you type in Space Tomato, I think they should all come up. One of them is for features, like features as in like video features about mostly Star Citizen, but I'm branching a little bit into other games. I just started a new series called Space Games Weekly, where I'm basically just talking about the news, reveals, and releases of space games over the last week. I put that out every Monday and or Tuesday. Just put out episode 2 today. My second channel is for like deep dives and podcasts like this, and third channel is for gameplay. I stream on Twitch. We got a Discord, and you can find me on Twitter and Blue Sky, I guess. Yeah.
Amazing, spectacular. Thanks again, man.
Thank
really good to have you on the show. Yeah. Oh man, pleasure's all ours. I hope kind of like this back and forth kind of discussion like this just kind of helps people like see like, hey, different perspectives. It all works on these hot button issues. Like maybe there is a middle ground that we can find.
Yeah.
But yeah, loved having you here. Would love to continue the conversation with you and everybody else in the comments below, and I really appreciate everybody who tuned in to watch this. Until then, we're out.